This is your Wall Street wake-up call. Global stocks are up amid a stabilization in oil prices and strength in fresh U.S. economic data. For more, let's go to London. That's where Michael Hewson joins me. He's the chief market analyst with CMC Markets in London. And Michael, what do you make of the rally we're seeing in stock prices? Actually, oil prices are down, but they're still up over the past month or so. What's going on here?
Yeah, I think what you're seeing when compared to a month ago, I think, is a stabilization in commodity prices, and that in itself is leading to a stabilization in the basic resource sector. Yesterday's rally in the Dow Jones was predominantly driven by basic resources and financials, and I think the reason we're seeing a little bit of a rebound in the financials is, I think, as a direct link through from the stabilization in commodity prices. That's assuaging some concerns that further declines in oil prices could actually mean that more loans go bad on some of these more over-leveraged energy companies. So I think as a result, what we're seeing is a significant rebound in, essentially, I think, the main sectors that got sold off, a stabilization, a perception of a stabilization in oil prices. Certainly we're at the top end of the range that we've been in over the past few weeks and months. And I think the key thing for me now is whether or not we're able to sustain those gains, because I think if we can, then I think there's a good chance we could go higher. If we can't, then I think there's a chance we could slip back.
All right, now many investors, at least so far this year, have been worried about a global recession, but at least, in the U.S., you look at the data on Tuesday, strong auto sales, encouraging manufacturing data. I mean, that doesn't scream recession, does it?
No, it doesn't. I think what investors were concerned about was that a manufacturing recession, which we are seeing, would create a trickle-down effect into the services sector. The services sector here in Europe has still been fairly promising, albeit it is slipping back from its better levels of, say, 6 months ago. It's a similar story in the US, it's a similar story in China, and it's a similar story here in the UK. And I think it was that concern, as a result of, I think, weaker energy prices pretty much across the board, that prompted a little bit of concern that that's the direction we were going. The fact that commodity prices have stabilized has seen some of those concerns become a little bit more mitigated, if you like.
All right, and where do we go from here? I mean, we may be in some sort of a holding pattern in terms of the markets, but of course we have Friday's jobs report, next week's ECB meeting, and then later this month, the all-important March meeting of the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, as you said, I think we're in a little bit of a holding pattern. As far as the FTSE 100 is concerned, we've pretty much erased most of the losses that we saw in February. We're above the February highs. As far as European markets are concerned, it's a slightly more nuanced. I still think there are concerns about the financial sector in Europe as a result of the ECB potentially going even further negative next week. And then, as you rightly say, we've got US economic data later this week. I think there is the potential for an improvement there. We saw a very poor payrolls number in January of 151,000. I'm certainly going to be particularly interested in any upward revision and whether or not we get a significant bounce back in February. And I think if we do get a strong jobs number, that could have significant effect or significant effects on expectations about what the Fed might do with respect to its policy at its March meeting.
And just quickly on the S&P 500, do we get back above 2,000?
I think that, for me, is the line in the sand. I think if we can get back above 2,000, then we could go further. I'm still not convinced that we have the legs to do that quite yet. I think much will depend on what happens over the next couple of weeks.
All right, Michael Hewson from CMC Markets in London. Michael, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
I'm Scott Gamm, and you're watching The Street.